Welcome to the HVAC-OLOGY experience, where we talk about all things HVAC industry, topics that are so hot they are cool.
Okay. Salve, Kelly Patterson. How are you?
Salve. I'm not sure what that means, Ryan Hudson.
That's just hello in Italian. Did you know that I got Duolingo app and I have for the past month been going through Duolingo to learn Italian?
Whoa! Are you fluent yet? It's been a month.
No, I have not.
Okay.
I'm not fluent yet. I'm actually right now on relationships with family members so that I know what different people, what their names are in Italian. The reason why I'm doing that is because for 22 years, my wife has been asking, can we go to Italy? And we are finally doing it in April of 2025.
Yay! I'm so excited for you.
Yes, I am.
What cities are you going to?
Oh my goodness.
All of them. You're going to all of them.
Yes, all of them. I start at the top of the boot and I go down the boot. I know that much.
All right. I hope it's 2 weeks or 3.
It's 9 days.
9 days.
Is that not enough, Kelly?
Ryan, I think you need to extend your trip just by a few more days. You'll not want to come back.
Because this is what happens. Anytime I'm gone for over a week, I get inundated with so many emails. My phone fills up. Text messages are overflowing. And it no longer feels like a vacation anymore.
I agree. Yeah, I get it. Okay. 9 days is plenty. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to hear when you get back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, the big thing about Duolingo is that I have actually not done the paid for version. I have to do the free version. And I think it's the cheap part of me. It's in my DNA growing up in the hood that I feel like I can't buy this app. I have to actually sit through all the commercials and everything.
So I also have Duolingo. Highly recommend the paid version. I'm using it to learn French. So highly recommend the paid version. It's not that much. You can afford it. Do it.
All right. Fine. You've pushed me over the edge. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
So today, Kelly, we have Chris Curry with Cook Fans.
Yay. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talked a little bit about this before we actually started recording this episode with you, Chris. But I tell you, I'm really excited about this episode because looking on Cook's website, I tell you, it feels like the Hoffman family of companies has been perfectly knit together with the Cook family. And I look forward to this conversation. So, Chris, the question we like to ask folks is how in the world did you get from high school to where you're at today? And probably it'd be good actually to start off with what in the world do you do for Cook Fans?
Well, actually, I can answer both those questions at kind of the same time. So I was actually attending, back then it was called Southwest Missouri State University, and it's now called Missouri State University. And I knew I wanted to pursue a career in a technical kind of design field, okay, mechanical design. So I knew I needed to get an internship. And by the way, just a sidebar, I personally love what Hoffman does with your internship program. So any young person listening to this podcast, please look up Hoffman's internship programs. That is phenomenal. Okay. So I am an old intern. I mean, it doesn't look like I'm an intern, but I am an intern, you know, still in my heart. So I went, and this was back in, I'm going to tell you my age. This is the early 1990s. I was signed up for an internship with the university, and they said, well, go interview at Loren Cook Company. And I go, well, what do they do? And they go, we don't know. So I had to go. This is back pre-internet. I went to the library and I pulled down these books called a Thomas Register, looked up what Loren Cook did, and it said in their advertisement, they're manufacturers of air moving equipment. So I'm thinking they must make fans. Okay.
Good guess.
So I show up. My first day was June 6, 1994, the 50th anniversary of D-Day. And I start out in the engineering department, and I was doing everything to running prints out to the manufacturing floor, helping test fans in the lab. I was doing whatever they asked of me so I could learn all aspects of the business. So my internship was coming to the end, and I was approached by back then the director of manufacturing and says, listen, why don't you come to work for me as a manufacturing engineer? So I became a manufacturing engineer. Never went on an interview other than my initial internship interview. And I went and became a manufacturing engineer. So now in my internship, I was helping test the fans. Now I am learning how to make the fans.
Cool.
So while I was a manufacturing engineer, I was given this project about make this fan more manufacturable. And I was like, and I just ended up redesigning the whole fan. So that led me into becoming a product development engineer here at Loren Cook.
Mm-hmm.
So then I developed fans here at Cook. I developed about 3 different fans, and they're all still in development in production today. Then people kept asking me, how do we apply these fans in systems? So then I evolved into an application engineer at Loren Cook. And then I ended up training people here at Cook and our consulting engineers and other reps about how these Loren Cook products all work together and the pros and cons of ventilation. So they're like, well, that's a job of what a product manager does. So I became a product manager, and then, kind of put a bow on this, Ryan. Hoffman asked for the line. They said, we really need a pretty good guy to be our regional manager for Hoffman. And so my boss, the vice president of sales and marketing, said, okay, Chris, here's your choice. You can either train the guy to be Hoffman's regional manager, or you can be Hoffman's regional manager. So I took what I thought was the path of least resistance and just became the regional manager, so I wouldn't have to train anyone. So
great. So we got the guy. I like it.
We did get the guy. You know all the things about fans.
Well, I try. Let's put it that way.
So before we got started with the interview, Kelly noticed astutely something in the background for those of you who are listening, not watching.
Tell us what's in the back. I see it looks like a jersey, Chris. What is that in the background?
So that is right there is Lynn Dawson, the jersey of Lynn Dawson. And that holds a special place in my heart. I'm going to take something off the wall to kind of show you guys.
And tell us who Lynn Dawson is too, for those of us who don't follow.
So yeah, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I've been that way for a long time. And this is my most prized possession. This is actually a Polaroid photograph of my dad the day he got to meet his hero, Lynn Dawson. Lynn Dawson was the MVP of Super Bowl IV. Okay.
Wow.
So I've been it's Super Bowl IV. So, and now before NFL apparel was a thing, my very first Christmas picture, I'm in a Kansas City onesie.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So I've been a Kansas City Chief for a long time. So even though we just lost the Super Bowl, I take in the long views. Like, my dad only got to see one Super Bowl, and that was even before it was called the Super Bowl. Okay. And now I've seen 5.
Oh yeah.
So
they're always going to the Super Bowl now.
So
right. Yeah.
Chris,
exactly.
Do you feel obligated to also be a Taylor Swift fan too?
Right.
It's
a can of worms. It's a can of worms.
It is a can of worms. I in all honesty, I do take the long view of things. If it brings more people to the game of football,
right,
and look at it and enjoy it for a sport, who can, it's great. I mean, it is heartwarming to see, Super Bowl 54. You see these dads watching the game in the basement by themselves, and now the whole family's crowded around, and the little girls are screaming, about the bad officiating, and the dads are just
That's
kind of
really
looking at
cool.
it with a big smile on their face. So yeah.
Yeah, that is
So
cool.
I like anything that brings a family together, so Taylor Swift, yeah, I'm good.
I
So
love it.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing kind of how you got to where you're at today. I guess now to kind of zone in on the company itself. Tell us about the founding of Cook, and really, I love that Cook said, "This is our lane. Fans
mhm,
are our lane," and then kind
yeah,
of the heart of that, and how you got from maybe the one fan to what looks to be like 56 different product lines of fan now.
yeah. So it all starts with our founder, Loren Cook. He was actually born in a small town here in Missouri. His family moved to Oklahoma. Then, while he was a young man, he decided he did not want to work in the oil fields of Oklahoma. So he went to a trade school. It's Coyne Electrical School in Chicago. While he was in Chicago, he began working for a gentleman by the name of William Grainger, and that should
Oh,
Hmm.
like of Granger?
of Grainger exactly.
Wow.
And he did that so he could pay for his tuition and his room and board. Um, and try to make a very long story as short as possible. Um, Once he graduated from school, he was going to move out to California, but Mr. Grainger decided to open up his very first branch office. Now, we think of Grainger now as this global company, the internet, and
Yeah.
every town has a Grainger store, it seems like, but it had to start somewhere. So the very first Grainger branch office was in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay. Then Loren was made the branch manager, and then he opened up the next one in Cleveland, Ohio. And that's important to get to Cleveland, Ohio, because the company was founded in Bree, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
While Mr. Cook, the original Loren Cook, was working for Grainger, he became friends with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ilg. And the Ilg Fan Company was in Chicago at the time, and they hit it off, and Mr. Cook actually moonlighted making fan parts for Mr. Ilk.
Hmm.
So at some point he made the decision, like, I could take my knowledge that I got from the Coyne Electrical School, and by the way, Coyne Electrical School is still there. It's called Coyne Technical College. Okay. He took his knowledge from the Coyne Electrical School and applied it to the fan parts had been making with Mr. Ilg, and he basically started the company in 1941 in Bree, Ohio. Okay. He started with one fan, which was a gravity fan. It had no moving parts. That's how he got started. And it evolved into the company we have today. Now that first fan is a PR, which we still have in production today. It's a PR gravity fan. It has been in production continuously from the Loren Cook Company since the 1940s. So, and that's
can
one
I-
of the fans you saw on the website, Ryan. So
Okay.
now the idea is that that the Cook family had seen a lot of divergence in the industry about people trying to get into markets that they weren't really good at. Okay. And what they did was dilute the knowledge and the service that the company can provide. So, I mean, we've had a lot of people say, well, you need to get into restaurant hoods. We make restaurant fans, but the hood themselves with the electronics, the fire protection, all that is a specialized function that there's other people that can do that. We want to stick to fans. We want to be the premier place for knowledge of fans. So we put our focus on that. When you start getting distracted by other things, again, you dilute the talent, and it just you're not putting out your best effort in all those other all those other areas. So kind of a long drawn out answer, Ryan, but it's kind of maybe even a too simplified answer, but that's just the straight truth. So
I love that story. I
Yeah.
also you said you started with gravity fans.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I have no idea what a gravity fan is or how it works. Can you just give me a very simple explanation?
Absolutely. So a gravity fan is basically when you have too much pressure in a building, the air has to go somewhere. Whether
Okay.
you don't have enough, you don't have enough pressure in the building because everything has to equalize. It comes in. So a gravity fan means that there's no moving parts. So it is just basically a oversimplified. It's a covering a hole. Okay.
Okay.
You know, so,
Yep.
air will go in and out of a building because of natural convection. You also, standpoint is like, I don't know if you can see there's a window right here, but there's
Mhm.
air pushing against the building. Well, that can produce a negative on the other side. Well, sometimes that pressure pushing into the building through doors, windows, and cracks can overpressurize the building, and you need to have a relief somewhere. So
Got
that's
it.
what a gravity fan is. It's not, there is no power applied to it.
I love it.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, and it looks like that you guys have made a very good home, I think both in the commercial and industrial market as well.
Mhm.
And looks like you have the capability of making a product, but you can make that product for all sizes and all kinds of situations.
Yes. Uh, so the philosophy here is that when somebody comes to us with a project, the philosophy here is the answer is yes. Now, what's the question?
Hmm.
That's
That's a
our
great way to look
philosophy.
at it. Yeah.
You know,
I love it.
so when someone says, "Hey, I don't need a fan to move air, but I need something for a motif, for a background." I'm like, what is it for? Oh, it's for the Doctor Doom ride down at Universal Studios. So we made a fan
Wow.
that just turns real slowly, so it looks cool for the ride. That's all it is. It's not really moving any there, but it's like, hey, it's a fan. That's what we want. Like, okay, no problem. And so we do stuff like that, and we get into some very complex projects. I mean, laboratory fans are the ones that are probably, I'd say, the most complex because they are very safety
Mm.
driven. Okay. You have to, we are in a healthcare market as well. The healthcare market, they're doing a lot of research with stuff that, frankly, is probably very, concerning to people that it is out there, but you have to do it and you have to exhaust that air. So
Hmm.
there are things like plume rise, plume characteristics, on and on like that we get from a very technical aspect of that we get to that point. So we do we can get into the weeds very, very quickly and do very complex systems. And then some people say, "Hey, I got a dormitory that's got a kitchen over here and a kitchen over here. Can you guys make a side by side fan?" Yeah, no, no, no problem, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I did a lot of that when I was in the application engineering side. So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
With post-COVID, one of the things that I've found specifically in manufacturers is that it seems like the lead times have gotten very wonky out there. Have y'all been able to kind of get I don't know if y'all's lead times got out there, but were you able to get them kind of straight and to where you kept being able to provide to your customer base? And have you seen any problems with that as far as sourcing parts, pieces?
Well, one of the things that from the Cook family philosophy is they have no debt here. Okay.
Hmm.
So everything is paid, all our bills are paid down to zero. So during COVID specifically, um, we were actually getting phone calls from the suppliers and the supply chains that was like, "Hey, we've got this. You guys need it because we know you will pay."
Oh, wow.
And
That makes
so
sense.
yeah, so there was, we really didn't have any supply chain shortages from the standpoint of, if it was there, we got it. Now, things that didn't exist, because of supply chain issues, and I don't know if you remember or not, but, the Port of Long Beach had a huge backup right after COVID and
Hmm.
stuff like that. That affected us, but because the Cook family had a philosophy, and they actually kind of say this tongue in cheek, he goes, we do things that the Harvard Business School tell you not to do. Okay. And so we actually have a higher volume of inventory than probably a lot of these corporate people would say, because they just live in a spreadsheet, and the family, they will answer the phone from Mr. Hoffman saying, how are you guys on this motor? Okay, we're here. Where do you think we need to be, Mr. Hoffman? Because I think you need to be here. Well, let's look at it and make sure it makes sense for our customers. So that is a good thing about a family company. Now, around that same COVID time, there was a lot of people that got out of the workforce, and that did impact our lead times and deliveries. But we've spent a lot of time making sure that we've getting our lead times back down to where they were. The one thing that is probably a little bit of a detriment is the whole Amazon society out there. Amazon thinks everything is available in 24 hours, and the answer is no, it's not. When you're talking about a blower that's got a 73-inch wheel in it, that's 73 inches in diameter. That's going to take a little bit more time than 24 hours to make, so.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Well, I tell you, that's very impressive to hear that, Chris, just because having those parts sourced and ready to go more so than maybe your average manufacturer means that there's a reliability to your product. You didn't have to cut corners to make the same product that you would have pre-COVID or whatnot. I tell you, I was also very impressed with hearing the humble origins of Cook and seeing that now you guys have over a 1 million square foot facility to be able to kind of manufacture all of these different fan solutions. Where's that located, and kind of talk a little bit about that?
Well, so I don't want to burst your bubble here. It's a total number of plants under roof is over 1 million. So
hey, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, do what?
I'm good with that.
Okay. All right. So
the bubble's not burst.
Yeah. Okay. So right here in Springfield, Missouri, where the corporate headquarters is, we actually have a commercial facility, and then we also have an industrial facility. Okay. But kind of one of the things about the Cooks is that they look out into the future, and they kind of saw that, we needed more capacity. So they actually have opened 2 plants in the past 2 years in Coffeyville, Kansas, and McAllister, Oklahoma. So now in total, we actually have an assembly plant in Coffeyville, Kansas. We have another assembly plant in Coffeyville, Kansas. So there's 2 there, McAllister, Oklahoma, plus all the facility here in Springfield, Missouri. So I guess one of the things I kind of beating around the bush there is that they are all in the United States. There's no foreign or international plants. We're not dependent on having to worry about, our fans having to come into the United States and coming into the United States and having to be shipped out somewhere else. Yeah, we still have to get components from overseas. I would say my personal, and I'm going to be very blunt about this, it is a personal problem, is that we see all these codes about EC motors and energy there. That makes us so dependent on foreign components in order to meet domestic energy codes. So that's just that, again, that's my personal, that is not the company's stance. It's just me personally. That's what I have a problem with. So, okay.
Sure. Yeah. And I tell you, whenever you start having all those regulations that seem to almost be foolish in a sense, that's when you start to get, you can get in bad places with that. But yeah. I agree with you. So what I do also like when I was researching a little bit about Cook is that you guys seem to really care and put a lot of emphasis on education. And I noticed particularly a little play on words, an engineering cookbook that you guys have. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're giving back to the engineering community? And I think about those young engineers that they have the 4-year education, but then there's this thing called real life that has to come into play whenever they're actually designing systems. Can you kind of get into how Cook comes alongside them to help them with that, specifically with fans?
Well, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4
Wow.
generations of cookbooks at my desk. Okay, so yeah, as a play on words, the cookbook, it is one of those things like when you go out in the real world, and especially me personally, I began collecting crib notes about things. And so the cookbook was a total collection of crib notes out there from the HVE standpoint. So we are very conscious about the aspect about engineers in learning. Okay. There was some type of I think it was a statistic I saw or heard about a month ago that in our industry we are losing about 2,000 engineers a month. Okay.
Wow.
So that means we have to train an entire new generation of engineers. Okay. One of the detriments that we see as a manufacturer and education is the whole work at home aspect of it. There's a very collaborative effort. When people are in an office, they can hear things, they can see things on other people's screens and ask questions immediately. Now, technology like we're doing right here is great, but it doesn't replace the human bond of people collaboratively coming to solve a problem. Okay, so we have a number of videos to try to explain that stuff on our website, but we actually have classes where we bring in consulting engineers and do hands-on things. Okay, they're not simulations. We will actually tell people, hey, we have a fan law. In fact, this is definitely something from a Cook family that is definitely something you don't see in the corporate world, is that they made a commitment about 25 years ago. They took manufacturing space completely out of their factory and dedicated it to showrooms and educational facilities here at the factory. And I don't know anyone that will actually take manufacturing space away from manufacturing and give it to a marketing department to build displays to help educate the future. So it's more incumbent now that because we have so much turnover that we do more and more of that. So now we're looking for new technologies, and I'm just going to lay this out there. If I'm grateful to be on this podcast, and I'm looking forward to feedback. And hey, Cook, have you thought about doing this? We listen to everything because of that education component. Okay. In fact, I don't know of any other industry or any other company does this, but student ASHRAE chapters, if they're within a day's drive, we ask them to come into the factory. Okay.
That's fantastic.
There are, and because of our proximity, Kansas State University, shout out to the Wildcats there. They've been our longest standing coming in. They've been coming in since the late 90s. They bring in a student group every year to talk about HVAC. Okay.
Wow.
And we have other groups. So, we have a good proximity here, but we've made a dedicated effort to train people. I personally I am still involved. We're all involved with it, but that was primary my life for about 6 years at Cook, is to make sure that our curriculum was top notch. Okay. That we did not waste anyone's time, and now that I've become a regional manager, I see the more and more need for that because of the standpoint of an engineer sits here and he makes a design and he gets a result out of a computer, and that's got to be good. The thing about it is that the people that are writing the code for that computer, they have no knowledge of fans. Okay. They're just going ones and zeros, and to use the old computer term, garbage in, garbage out. Now, I'm just not saying that engineers put out garbage, but I'm just saying what they put in, they're spitting something out, and it is not necessarily the right piece of equipment until you educate them and start saying, did you look at the maximum RPM of that fan? Did you see where it is on the fan curve? Okay. Did you look at the size of it? Do you have enough room in that building for that? Inlet conditions, outlet conditions, affect the performance of the fan. Regardless, the fans are tested in laboratory conditions, but you're going to apply it into a building. And is it going to work in that condition because of the way you've done it? I have, in my career, I've been here 30 years. I've seen people say, "Oh, this is the Revit model." Now, Revit is a program that mechanical engineers use to lay it out. And I've seen things where I've just said, just because you can put something in a Revit model in a Revit project doesn't mean you should use that fan in that project. So that's a lot of that is, there's a lot of old school, things that have to be thought about and just not use what's spit out of a computer. So.
Sure. You talked about, thank you for kind of going through how you help with the engineering community to make sure people are knowledgeable about your product. With that, kind of looking towards the future, kind of walk us through, what does your R&D look like for Cook? How are you guys staying on the forefront of technology?
Well, it kind of goes back to what we're talking about. The one thing that is in technology wise is energy efficiency. Okay. There's a lot of codes out there which are in an aspect driving things even to larger fans. Okay. So that makes, if you go with a larger fan, it's typically more efficient. But then there are a lot of different things that go into that from a standpoint. We may have an existing fan, but we have to apply new technologies from a standpoint of motor technologies. I mean, it was PM motors, EC motors. We are constantly developing new EC motors for our fans. Okay. And those are, when I mean EC motors, we're talking about electronically commutated motors. Okay. I will say one of the misconceptions from an engineering, from a consulting engineering standpoint and a rep standpoint is that you can just take a motor and plug it into a fan, it's going to work. No, there still has to be some testing and developing, so forth there. A lot of engineers now are wanting to have those motors and fans tied into BMS systems so they can be accessed to the cloud. Okay. That is a very, very sharp double-edged sword. The more complexity you put into a system, the more things can go wrong. So there's a lot from the R&D side about looking at that. But, mainly right now, R&D is actually just tied up in just complying with the Department of Energy mandates about getting the data into their database. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's tying up a lot of our research time from a standpoint where we should be developing all this stuff, but we're having to make sure that the data in the database is correct. So, 15 years ago, we could self-certify something and Loren Cook would stand behind that and say, that is what it is. There was a lot of other companies that would self-certify, but they wouldn't stand behind their product. So that's kind of where research is right now. It's kind of like we have that bottleneck, like everything that we said was good. Okay, we're going to put the data back in, so forth. So, okay.
Gotcha. Very cool. So kind of to conclude our time today, one of the things we like to do is just kind of talk about a unique project or things, places you've seen maybe the Cook product that you were surprised about. Kind of, do you have anything specific out there?
I do. I do. And I was sitting at home one night and I was watching the movie Meet the Robinsons, okay, with my kids. And at the end of the movie, there is a song that was done by Rob Thomas, who is the front man for is it Matchbox 20? Anyway,
Matchbox 20. Yep, that's it.
It's Matchbox 20. So he is doing this song called Little Wonders, and he's sitting on this roof setting. And I noticed what he was sitting on. He was sitting on a Loren Cook top cap. And there was Loren Cook top caps all in this, fake roof setting, but it was like they were trying to make it look like a urban roof setting. I'm like, those are all Loren Cook top caps. And my kids are like going, Dad.
Come
And it
on, they
was
were
just,
impressed with you, weren't they? They were impressed
yeah,
with
I
you.
know there was just like, it's an occupational hazard. But we've done projects like the Bank America building in Charlotte. That has Loren Cook fans in it. Okay. There are, we actually have in our showroom a reel of all these special projects, and there's so many of them. It's really hard to go through and pick out a really favorite one. I mean, let me just go back to this back here. The fans at Arrowhead Stadium, I know are Cook fans, and stuff like that.
Man, that's pretty exciting.
So that's so those are all kind of the memorable projects there. So that I ran into. So okay.
That's great. I tell you, I appreciate this time that we've been able to have together. I've learned more about the Cook product and the Cook family and the lineage of it, and it's a fantastic story. Chris, thank you so much for taking some time to be with us today and be with our listeners and educate us.
So I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Very good. Well, Kelly, if folks like what we're doing here, what should they do?
They should follow our podcast, like it, subscribe anywhere you find your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere you want to be.
Very good. Well, thank you guys so much for your time, and I hope you guys out there have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Rocket past Saturn, things don't seem to matter much to me anymore. Got lost inside a daydream, get sick of all schemes they play on their machines. I lost so many words as I got older. You would have thought I would have stored them, and I'm on your love folder. I accidentally wrote these words down. Thought all the best of me faded in an endless sea, but you always bring me back at your blue eyes. 20 years of staring at that freckle on your left shoulder. Who would have thought all I needed was to think of you to bring back the words inside? But you always bring me back at your blue eyes. 20 years of staring at that freckle on your left shoulder. Who would have thought all I needed was to think of you to bring back the words inside of me? I drove an hour to see you. Things just seem to matter more to me anyway. Got lost in reality, no answers to cancer, we never got to talk. Lost so many friends as I got older. Wish I had the strength to hold you a little bit longer. Always meant to write these words down. Thought all the best of you faded in an endless sea, but you always bring me back at your blue eyes. 20 years of staring at that freckle on your left shoulder. Who would have thought all I needed was to think of you to bring back the words inside of me? Get your blue eyes. 20 years of staring at that freckle